Howdy, y'all. It is me, JSoldierPro, once again. Y'all, today I am going to be covering Wave 6, as we have seen the Wave 6 announcement trailer, and it is time to analyze it and give my opinions on it. Let's go ahead and let's do this. Wave 6 is the final wave of the Booster Course Pass, and so has the final two cups of not only the Booster Course Pass, but also Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as a whole. Which means that we will be covering the Acorn Cup and the Spiny Cup in today's video. Beginning with the Acorn Cup, the very first track to start us off is none other than Avanti. I'll be talking about the music before I talk about the tracks themselves for each one, but oh my goodness me, the music on this track really is so nice. It already sounded so nice in Tour, and I think it sounds even better here based on the snippet that we've heard. You can see the visuals, you can see how pleasant and nice this track is. A nice drive through Rome at nighttime, and this music fits perfectly. Awesome job, Nintendo. I'm very pleased with what you did with the music here. Unfortunately, I won't be predicting the layouts of Tour tracks in this video, as that's not really my cup of tea, to be honest, so I'll just leave that for other people. But I will be analyzing what we have seen, and so the first thing I really want to do is take a good long look at this screenshot. First of all, I'm just gonna go and say it. This looks freaking gorgeous. Look at the sky. You can see the stars in the sky. You can see some clouds overhead. You can also see the lights all over the place. You can even see the light shining down on the road. It is such a good example of attention to detail, and this is the kind of thing that really makes me love Mario Kart tracks. When attention to detail is done right, it really sells immersion, and I absolutely love that personally. You can also see a traffic light off to the side, and you can also see Toad and Yoshi waving as well. In the background, we of course have none other than the Coliseum itself, which we actually get an even better view of right here in this screenshot, where we actually get a view of the inside of it. There are torches in the background which are burning, and you can see the light from them on the walls. There are chain chomps in the center of the arena, and you can actually see how light is reflecting off of them. Again, the atmosphere in this track is just incredible. And just to really add to that, there's even dirt on the ground below the chain chomps, and it's even a little bit rough. They really didn't have to go this hard with the detail, but they did anyways, and it's absolutely incredible, and I love it. Looking at the track design, it appears the players will have to navigate through the Coliseum, through the very center of it, dodging chain chomps, and then they'll be able to exit collecting some item boxes. But if we look closely, we can see a pink arrow, and of course, whenever these are present, that means that there's some route changing shenanigans in order, which has been a staple of Tour City tracks, so it's to be expected, and is not a surprise. It does appear that the pink arrow specifically is blocking off the rim of the Coliseum around where the torches are, which to me indicates that at some point you'll have to drive through the center of the Coliseum, and at some other point in the race you'll also have to drive around the rim of it. Checking the footage that we saw earlier, and yes, here is confirmation for anyone that was wondering, including myself. Yes, you will have to drive around the rim of the Coliseum as well, and based on the pink arrow from earlier, I'm assuming that means that we'll actually be going into the Coliseum at least twice, which is pretty awesome and something I'm extremely excited about. Moving back outside to the rest of the city, and oh my goodness me, again, another beautiful screenshot. This track is beautiful. I don't know how else to say it. Again, the lighting is super well done, and look at the moon, guys. Oh my gosh. Anyways, talking about the track itself, of course, right in your face in the screenshot is a Monty wrench, which means that these guys will be obstacles in this track that players must avoid, which is pretty awesome. They appear to have infested the sewer system all across Rome Avanti, at least I'm assuming that's what's going on. And one must hope that they don't have a goal of overthrowing the local government in favor of a certain oversized reptile that has a particular fascination with kidnapping and trying to marry a specific princess. Anyways, aside from some future political drama that may or may not go down, for the purposes of this track, the Monty wrenches will probably serve as a pretty interesting obstacle, and they appear to make a lot of sense in the track, which is always nice to see. And of course, the Monty wrenches will be coming up and down out of the ground as Monty wrenches do, and when they're not out of the ground, it looks like you'll be able to drive over them, and there's even a coin on top of this Monty wrench to signify that, so that's pretty cool. Looking up in the air, we can see these rings with coins and fuzzies going around them, which to me indicates that there's actually an optional glider section, meaning you'll be able to glide through the section of the track, or you'll be able to drive on the ground. But if you decide to go through this ring, you'll have fuzzies to dodge, and we can also see it on the other side, where I'm assuming there's also Monty wrenches to avoid if you choose to go that way as well, but you're driving on the ground. You can see what we just talked about in the background of this footage right here, and then we can see this starting line right here, and this transitions us into this footage of Pauline, which I believe is actually just after the footage that we just saw in terms of how the track will flow, which is pretty interesting. I really like how they had so much attention to detail when showcasing the track. That or it's coincidence. Either way, I'm a fan. One other example of this is actually from this very first screenshot where we get to see the Roman Colosseum. Then we have this footage where we get to go from the outside into the inside, where we get to drive around the rim of the Roman Colosseum. And then, of course, we have the screenshot that I spent forever analyzing that shows us the inside of the Colosseum. Again, this is really cool how they did this. I don't know if this was intentional, but either way, I love it. The final screenshot to talk about for Rome Avanti is this one, and oh my goodness, again, this track looks awesome. Look at the water. Look how it's shiny. Oh my gosh, it's so reflective and beautiful. I love this. In general, there's not really a ton to take away from this. It's a glider section. We don't get a lot of other information from it. I'm assuming you can drive in the water down below, but does it matter when the track looks this freaking good? Anyways, my opinion on Rome Avanti based on this, I will be very surprised if it is not up there with Athens Dash, Vancouver Velocity, and Singapore Speedway as among my favorite Tour City tracks in the game. In fact, this might actually be a contender for my favorite Tour City track in the game, but time will tell. I'm just gonna go and say it though, this right here is very, very compelling, so I'm quite excited for this track going into Wave 6. Whew, man, Tour Rome Avanti took a while to discuss, but now it's time that we move on to a track which I really don't think we need to talk about nearly as long, as a lot more people are quite familiar with it. The second track of the Acorn Cup is GCN DK Mountain. The music on this track sounds pretty good. I mean, it's not the most astounding music or anything, and it's probably the weakest soundtrack, I'd say, for Wave 6. All things considered, it still fits the track, reminds me of the original, has a great vibe to it, and overall, I like it, which I'd say is more than sufficient. Now talking about the track, which I am quite familiar with thanks to its remake in Mario Kart Wii, and what a better place to start than this screenshot right here, which clearly shows us the cannon barrel. Of course, you go into this thing and you fly out of it in one of the coolest cannon sections in the entire series. In fact, if you were to say this is the best cannon section in any track in the entire series, I think I actually agree with you. This might just be the best one in the series. It's definitely up there in the top 5. The other main takeaway about this image is just truly the scale of the track. I love how we can quite clearly see virtually the entire layout of the track, and I do love how this track has you shooting up to the very top and then you're scaling your way back down. It's super interesting. I also love how we get to see the face of the mountain and how the mountain is so pronounced in this version of the track. I mean, seriously, just look at it in this closer up screenshot. Oh my goodness me! This looks really crazy. Like, the face is glowing, there's stuff flying out. I mean, honestly, it's a sentient mountain that's having an identity crisis. It's clearly a volcano, but it believes it's a mountain. What is this? Looking at the full screenshot now, when we can clearly see boulders that are coming down, and of course these were going to return. Did you really think they'd bring back this track and not have the boulders going down the track? You'd be crazy to think that. And also the half pipe. Of course, since Wave 3, the Booster Course Pass has indeed had half pipes, and so they're here, and they still have the anti-gravity panel texture, and I still prefer what the Wii version had for the half pipes. Seriously, why the new texture? Like, seriously, could you not just bring back the old texture? One thing I will say, though, I actually do prefer how the mountain looks, not just the face of it, but also the texture of it. I like the texture of the mountain. I think I actually prefer it over the Wii version, so I suppose that's worth noting. Continuing onwards down the mountain, and we see this crazy turn. Oh my goodness me. This is truly going to be the point where your 200cc skills are tested. If you're good with the 200cc controls, then you'll be fine. If you're okay with it, you might survive, and if you're not, well, you're not gonna have much fun, are you? However, the main takeaway I want to look at here is in the background. The railing is extended compared to the Wii version. Seriously, the Wii version allowed you to take a shortcut right here, and it looks like the railing is extended in such a way to where this little shortcut will no longer be possible. Now, maybe a variant of it will be that won't save as much time, but whether or not that's even worth going for or possible, we have yet to see. Hopefully Lucky 2 is reasonable. And finally, we have this final screenshot where we can see the starting line and also where we can see the ending bridge. Of course, this bridge is infamous in the Mario Kart community for getting Mario Karted, so I feel the need to alert y'all that yes, this bridge will probably be as deadly as ever, and you should use extreme caution when traversing it. Overall, GCN DK Mountain appears to be almost identical to previous iterations, with only minor modifications here and there, which makes perfect sense. The one thing, though, is the railing. I really hope that shortcut is still possible. Otherwise, this could constitute a slight downgrade, but we'll see. Moving onward from the rugged mountainside of GCN DK Mountain, and we now need to go into a more quiet, serene environment. The track that was the mystery retro, the track that many people debated over what it could possibly be, and ultimately Nintendo decided the answer should be Wii Daisy Circuit. This track was chosen for the teaser trailer, and so I won't be going into my opinions extensively here, as I already went into them in that video, so if you want to hear them, watch that video, link in the description. Still though, I'll give y'all a brief overview for anyone who wants a refresher, or just for anyone who hasn't watched that video. The soundtrack is absolutely glorious. I mean, seriously, the original was already amazing, but this has been elevated to a brand new level, and I absolutely adore it. Daisy is really going all out when it comes to the soundtracks in terms of improving them, and I love that. Good job, Daisy. Visually, this track is much more stunning than it ever was in Mario Kart Wii, and overall, I'd say it's just about better in every single way visually. The only exception to this would be the statues, which, yeah, I definitely prefer the Wii version of them. Aside from the visuals, the gameplay of the track itself has also been updated slightly. There's now a glider ramp when you come out of the shortcut instead of a boost ramp. There are some ramps added after the tunnel tunnel. And finally, there are some boost panels added to the final big turn of the track. Overall, Wii Daisy Circuit appears to be the original version from Mario Kart Wii, but enhanced in just about every single way, which I believe will make this a slight improvement over the original version. Whew, man, you know what though? Daisy Circuit was a little bit hot. You know, you have that sun beating on you. Wouldn't it be nice to go down, take a dive into the water, cool off a bit? I think it's time that we go ahead and we check out the fourth and final track of the Acorn Cup, which is Tour Piranha Plant Cove. The music is almost identical to how it was in Mario Kart Tour, and honestly, I'm completely fine with that. The soundtrack is amazing and gives off the vibes of you going on some kind of crazy adventure, going through ruins of some kind. And just look at this track. That's exactly what it screams. Oh my goodness. The soundtrack fits the track perfectly, and I would not change it at all. Amazing job. Taking a look at the very first image, and oh my goodness me, come on, I mean, this track just looks freaking incredible. We can see piranha plants built into the ruins, we can see an eel swimming in the water, we can see seaweed, we can see what looks like some kind of ruin structure, maybe there was some kind of ancient civilization, some kind of piranha plant civilization of some kind. Really, the possibilities here are just about endless. Also, you have scuba diving toads around the place, which just looks incredible, and you can even see some starfish as well. Overall, it just looks absolutely incredible, and we also get this other screenshot with PD Piranha on the ruins. Perfect character for this track, by the way, of course. And we can also see the section of the track in this footage right here with Koopa Troopa, and we can clearly see that there is indeed a starting line in the background. We can also see that you can indeed trick off part of the ruins, and there's even geysers going up into the air, which is pretty crazy. And finally, we get to see Koopa Troopa climb up the stairs, get above water, and get this absolutely gorgeous view. Oh my goodness me, that looks incredible. In general, the sequence of footage that we just witnessed is actually an extremely good example of this track focusing on both underwater driving and land driving in combination with each other. It's a really big thing that's really emphasized in this track. It looks like you'll be going underwater and above water a lot, so you really need to be comfortable with not only driving on land, but also driving underwater to do well in this track. This will make the track's gameplay extremely unique and extremely memorable, as there's not many tracks that really do this. The ancient ruins vibe of this track immediately makes me think of Thwomp Ruins, and then the underwater driving along with some land movement makes me think of Dolphin Shoals. Combining the two tracks is something I never really think of, but actually doing it in the form of this track and also giving it a Piranha Plant theme for whatever arbitrary reason, it's like freaking perfect. I love this, dude. This is such a cool theme for a track, and it looks so well executed. Man, this is cool, and I'm not even done analyzing it yet. Moving onwards from that tangent of sorts, we can clearly see that there will in fact be thwomps in this track that players must avoid, and it does appear that there is also this cave that players have to travel through. As if this track wasn't already cool enough, there's a freaking cave with thwomps. Oh my gosh. We can also see boost panels in front of the thwomps as well, which is always cool. Again, more ruins all around the place, and this specific part of the track is underwater, just to make things even more interesting. One final note about the cave as well, I just realized there's actually jellyfish that are glowing towards the ceiling of it, just to add a little bit more atmosphere to it. That is such a cool little detail. Moving onwards to the final image that we're provided, and oh my gosh, again, this track just looks so cool. Look at the above ground area. I love how there's a lighthouse. The trees look super awesome, and I really love the elevation change here. Also, you can see toads watching you, Yoshis, even a Shy Guy. There's lanterns, there's torches. Overall, everything just looks absolutely incredible. The lighting is so well executed. included. The atmosphere of this track really does sell that you're right by some kind of warm body of water, some kind of crazy adventure is just waiting for you. And again, the music really adds to the atmosphere of this track. It really adds to the immersion. It really makes you feel like you're going on some kind of crazy adventure, and I absolutely adore that. Despite being the last screenshot that we were supplied, it turns out the footage has even more to analyze. So let's go ahead and let's take a good long look at this pirate ship. We can see a shipwreck of some kind, and I'm assuming it's a pirate shipwreck because, one, pirate shipwrecks are cooler than regular shipwrecks, and secondly, because there's a treasure chest with gold coming out of it. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but that to me screams piracy. So, you know what? That's what we're gonna go with. It's a pirate shipwreck. All right, here we go. So yeah, pirate shipwreck. It's broken into several parts. Looks like you can actually do a shortcut in this part, which is pretty cool. And there's also a clam just to help keep things more interesting. One final detail though, if we look at the surface of the water, you can actually see a circular rainbow, which indicates the sunlight up above, which I personally thought was a pretty cool detail. Continuing underwater, and we can see this section right here where there is going to be a giant eel that tries to maul you to death. So that's pretty interesting that you have to deal with that. There's also this fish in the background. I don't know what creature this is off the top of my head. Let me know in the comments if you happen to know. I know this is a Mario enemy that has appeared before. I'm familiar with it because it's in a level from New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I cannot, for the life of me, remember what the name is of this though. But anyways, it has a source of light on its head, like a light bulb. Not literally a light bulb, but you get my gist. And so it's lighting up the area around it. And finally, in the background, we can see a statue of the one, the only, the glorious Petey Piranha. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you know what? No, it all makes sense. It's Piranha Plant Cove because it's Petey Piranha's hideout of sorts. I guess it's like his civilization. He is worshipped as some magical, glorious entity that is above all others. And this glorious civilization was built with his blessing, his leadership, and his infinite wisdom. All hail Petey Piranha! Transitioning back to above water, and I don't have anything else to specifically add to this footage. I just wanted to show it off just to really show again the beautiful atmosphere of this track. Just look at that moon. And yeah, in general, the ruins look absolutely incredible. Of course, it wouldn't be a Piranha Plant track without Piranha Plants as hazards, and so here we are. There are Piranha Plants that will be munching at you, trying to get their next meal out of you as you are traversing above the water. And finally, we have this absolutely gorgeous glider section that lets you admire the beauty that is this track. Overall, I am extremely excited for Tour Piranha Plant Cove. It has completely blown my mind with its absolutely incredible theming, great attention to detail, and I absolutely love how the track has an emphasis on underwater driving as well as land driving in combination to each other, as it looks like you'll be flipping between the two constantly throughout the race. This all results in what I truly believe will be one of the most memorable tracks in the entire game, and a track I am likewise very excited to play. And with that, the entire Acorn Cup has been discussed. And of course, we still have the Spiny Cup to go. But since I've spent the last 20 plus minutes analyzing tracks, I think it'll be good to maybe take a little bit of a breather and focus on something else. And as it turns out, Wave 6 is adding more than just tracks. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that real quick. First and foremost, we of course have the 4 characters that are being added, which are Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette. If you want to hear my full reactions to them, again, I recommend you watch my teaser trailer analysis video. Just as a quick recap, however, I am quite excited that Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, and Pauline are all coming. Peachette, on the other hand, I'm really not excited about, and frankly, I don't think she should be included, period. That being said, it's not the end of the world. I just want would have preferred a character, maybe like Nabbit or King Babam, somebody of that nature, even Poochie. Actually, I take everything back. Poochie would have been my number one pick. But anywho, I can live with Peachette. It's not the end of the world, just not my preferred pick. Overall, however, I am extremely happy with the characters that have been selected for Wave 6. Something I discussed in my teaser trailer video as well was exactly how on earth would the characters be introduced into the character roster, as there was only room for 2 additional characters. So that left the debate open for if the character roster would simply have the dimensions changed, or if maybe some of the already existing characters would be turned into ults, or perhaps some of the new characters would be ults. And Nintendo decided to take the easy route and just simply change the dimensions of the character roster accordingly, and this is what it looks like now. That's all for the 4 new characters, but it turns out we're not quite done with the character selection screen, because there are a whopping 18 new Mii Suits being added. This is crazy! I never would have guessed that more Mii Suits would have been added in Wave 6, and honestly, I'm absolutely excited. I don't even play as my Mii often, but just the option for this is really, really cool. I'm not going to go over each and every individual Mii Suit, as I don't think it'd be all that interesting, but I will go over 3 that I think stand out for one reason or another with y'all. First up is the question mark block Mii Suit, which I honestly have on here just because I'm very curious personally. I always like to ask questions, and so this kind of Mii Suit resonates with me personally. Next up, we have the cow Mii Suit, which I'll be calling the Moo Moo Mii Suit, just because this is of course referencing Mario Kart cows, which are in fact called Moo Moos. Moo Moos are iconic enough to where they have not 1 but 2 Mario Kart tracks to their name, and they're one of my favorite obstacles of the entire series in Moo Moo Meadows, just because of how funny, cute, and charming they are. So I'm happy that they have their own Mii Suit as a result. And finally, we have the Block Fort Mii Suit, which I'm putting on here solely because it is absolutely stupid. I just love the stupidity of this. I mean, seriously, it's just a block fort that you will find at the end of a Mario level. I don't know why this is here, but overall, I don't really play as my Mii much personally, as I typically prefer to just play as Mario characters, but for people who really like to play as their Mii and do so often, this is going to be awesome. And in fact, it's so cool it might actually get me to play as my Mii more, which is going to be absolutely awesome if it in fact does. I love the amount of versatility and the amount of Mii costumes, and just the sheer quantity of them is absolutely mind-boggling. This was completely unexpected, but absolutely welcome, and I have no complaints about it whatsoever. Somehow, even though I've spent all this time talking about additional content in Wave 6 besides the tracks, there's still more to talk about. The menu screens are being altered. Again, I never expected this to happen in Wave 6, but here we are. And look at this menu. Dude, this looks so epic. I have no idea how to even explain it, but this just looks absolutely incredible, and I absolutely love it. Also, we can see a modified menu, also with the track selection screen. And this also looks absolutely amazing, and I absolutely love it. Again, I did not expect any of this, but I am absolutely on board, and I love these changes. The final change to mention is that there will now be a music player in-game. I imagine this will allow you to listen to any song from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that you want to while in the game, and while it's a little thing, I absolutely love this personally. Again, I have no complaints with it, and I'm very happy it's being added. This is all just absolutely mind-boggling. We're not getting 2 characters, we're instead getting 4 characters, which is double what just about anybody was expecting. We're also getting Mii Suits, which were entirely unexpected. We're also getting an entirely different art style to the menus, which was also entirely unexpected. And we're also going to be able to play any song that we want in-game, which is also entirely unexpected. Wave 6 is going above and beyond our expectations, and I absolutely love it. Alrighty, that was a nice break, but now it's time to get right back into analyzing tracks, and it's finally time that we conquer the Spiny Cup. First and foremost, it's time we go ahead, take a nice trip to Spain, and it's time that we talk about Tour Madrid Drive. The music is definitely a slight improvement over the original. It's essentially the original, but it's more pronounced, and given the original is already incredible, I really am fine with that. Great job on the soundtrack. Also important to note, however, before we continue onwards to the gameplay, there are two music variants in Tour Madrid Drive, and I will be playing the tour versions of those music variants when we get to the respective parts of the track where those music variants would normally play. I'm assuming they'll be in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but we have yet to hear them, so I'll be giving my opinions on those when we get to those parts of the track, so stay tuned. Looking at the very first image, and we can quite clearly see a giant city square area where we can see a bunch of Toads and Yoshis sitting at some tables and even having some drinks. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. What's the point of straws in these drinks? I guess for the Toads, but for Yoshis? You mean to tell me Yoshis actually use a straw? I thought they just eat the whole freaking cup in one gulp and call it a day. I mean, seriously, they're Yoshis. Aside from that, the square looks quite nice. I love how there's a statue in it. I don't really have much else to add until we look at the footage. We can see Toad trick off some stairs entering the square, and then we get this view of a giant sleeping Wiggler in the middle of the square. What? I love how there's a giant sleeping Wiggler in the middle of the square, and literally nobody cares. Again, we just have everyone sipping on the drinks, the Toads and the Yoshis. But then again, you know what? Wigglers are majestic creatures, so I can understand why no one is annoyed. Honestly, I'd probably be taking pictures. As long as the Wiggler doesn't wake up and starts rampaging everywhere, I guess everything's fine, right? Let the Wiggler sleep. And most importantly, don't wake up the Wiggler! As far as gameplay is concerned, I'm guessing this Wiggler sleeps the first time you go through the square, but perhaps you have to come through the square another time, and maybe, just maybe, the Wiggler then decides to get up and starts to get in your way the second time around. This is just a theory of mine, but it's possible, I suppose. One final thing about this square, actually, I just realized that there's actually some birds which we can see come up in the footage as Toadlands, which is quite interesting. It's a little detail, but it's a detail I like. Looking now at this screenshot, and we can quite clearly see that there is in fact a starting line or a finish line, depending upon how you want to think about it. There's also a Shy Guy, some Toads, some tall street lights. We can also see some confetti coming down from the air, and we can also see some plants off to the side as well. Looking now at this footage, and I just want to point out, I absolutely love how there's water geysers that come out of this body of water that you can trek off of. Reminds me of Tour Singapore Speedway, and I really like that. Also, I love how there's a yellow Toad cheering you on from his little boat. It's such a little detail, but it's also a little detail I love. Now looking at this image, which again is from the footage, and we can quite clearly see what appears to be a 270-degree turn, which is also going uphill in a spiral of sorts. And I like it. I mean, it's not the most revolutionary thing on planet Earth, but there's something about the design of it that I'm just a fan of. Also, you get to go over a bridge. It's a little thing, but I like it as well. We can also see this off to the right, which looks like some kind of marketplace. And there's also thwomps inside, which will act as obstacles that you have to avoid. This is pretty cool, and I like it. One thing before we move on from the marketplace, actually, what exactly is this stall selling? It to me looks like cheese. I see yellow blocks, and I see what looks like some triangles on what looks like a chalkboard or something of that nature. So I'm going to guess cheese, but if y'all have any ideas, I guess feel free to leave it in the comments. Also, why are there thwomps in the marketplace? Isn't having the constant threat of customers being crushed bad for business? Wouldn't that make people shop elsewhere? You would honestly think so, but then again, this is the Mario universe, so you know what? Maybe this kind of thing happens so regularly, consumers just don't mind. Now looking at the entire image once again, and something else has stood out to me. Notice anything weird about the marketplace aside from the thwomps and possible cheese market or whatever? Look at it! There's no pink arrows! Is this some sort of split path shenanigans where players can choose to either go through the marketplace or go over the bridge? That's pretty interesting if so. And notice that the thwomps are actually facing towards this way, towards where the screenshot is, meaning players are, I assume at least, intended to go through the marketplace in that direction, which does indicate to me that this might genuinely be a split path area, which is pretty cool. I'm not used to that in Tour City tracks. I'm used to Tour City tracks forcing you to go whichever way they desire, but maybe Tour Madrid Drive is wanting to break that a little bit. I don't doubt we'll see a lot of lap changing shenanigans, but maybe there will be some flexibility in terms of how players can approach the track. And personally, I think that that's absolutely awesome if that's how the track wants to try to handle this sort of thing. This image also lets us appreciate the amount of buildings that there are in Tour Madrid Drive. But out of all of them in this screenshot, of course, we can see in the background there is one that looms over everything else. And that just so happens to be the stadium! I doubt I even need to clarify this, but holy moly, the soundtrack is incredible! I mean, seriously, I already love the regular soundtrack, but this? People talk about Berlin Byways going hard. People talk about Moonview Highway and 8 Deluxe going hard. You know what goes even harder? Madrid Drive Stadium from Mario Kart Tour, and it's going to probably go even harder in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. We, as a species, are not ready for the absolute beauty that will be the soundtrack in 8 Deluxe. We are not prepared for it. As far as the atmosphere of the stadium goes, absolutely perfect. Seriously, I mean, you have Koopas, Toads, and Shy Guys all watching from the crowd. You even have some Yoshis that are getting some VIP treatment. You have stadium lights up above, advertisements all over the place. You also have Goomba shoes that are kicking around giant bulls that actually are hazards. I mean, seriously, if Bowser can't even take a hit from one of them, what chance does anyone else have? Plus, there's even boost panels that you can utilize to speed through the section even quicker. This is perfect! Incredible soundtrack, incredible theming, and awesome gameplay. And finally, we reach the museum, which is the final area in Tour Madrid Drive that we have yet to discuss. This has its own unique soundtrack as well, and I do really like it as it's a nice lullaby version of the regular soundtrack. It's probably the best way to put it. It gives off museum vibes, which is exactly what this area is, and so it fits extremely well, and I really like it for that reason. All this being said, it is actually my least favorite of the 3 variants that Madrid Drive has, which has a bit unfortunate, but make no mistake, I absolutely love the original version, and I'm assuming the 8 Deluxe version is going to sound even better. As far as the image itself goes, I do like how the museum has its own unique architecture, and we can also see 4 pictures here, which is pretty cool. There are, of course, 3 Piranha Plant paintings where we can see the left one wants to eat the middle one, which I do not recommend, by the way. There's the center one, which is literally coming out of the painting and looks ready to munch some players. And then there's the right Piranha Plant, which looks to just be having a good time and is just chilling. And finally, we have an image of some Toads, Princess Daisy, and Princess Peach all helping construct a Mario snowman, which looks absolutely awesome. This might be a reference to something, but if it is, I definitely don't know it. Overall, Tour Madrid Drive shows us a lot, but also leaves a lot of questions as far as what else we could possibly see. We've already seen an entire stadium, a museum, which both have their own unique soundtracks. We've also seen a giant sleeping wiggler, some thwomps, a market marketplace, and yet this track could hold some other secrets. Also, the lack of pink arrows in front of the marketplace again opens up the possibility for there potentially being some split route shenanigans as well in this track. Overall, Tour Madrid Drive intrigues me way more than I expected, and I'm extremely hyped to play this track when Wave 6 drops. That was a nice vacation, but you know what? After going into the museum, I now actually want to go into a wintry wonderland. Thankfully, that actually correlates to our next track, which was quite unexpected. That track is none other than 3DS Rosalina's Ice World. Yet another soundtrack I am quite a big fan of. It sounds quite similar to the original version, though definitely better, and honestly, I love it. The music fits perfectly with this track. I've always appreciated this track for having a very nice soundtrack, and that does not appear to have been changed in 8 Deluxe. If anything, it appears to have been enhanced, and I love it. Okay, I'm just gonna go and say it. This track looks incredible! Oh my god! Look at the sky, dude! You can see galaxies, you can see stars in the night sky. Of course, we have the Comet Observatory, we have planets in the distance. This just looks absolutely gorgeous. We can also see some little huts. I guess they're meant to be sort of like igloos, even though they're not really igloos, so that's kind of neat. Also, we can see some Yoshi, Shy Guys, Toads. Also, we can see some penguins. All of this just looks absolutely gorgeous. We can see the starting line, and we can actually see it behind Rosalina in this image as well. This image also shows us a nice good look at this purple ribbon over the track, as well as the trees in the background, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous. Again, I love the aesthetics on this track. Next up, we can see King Boo drifting along the wall, ensuring that he does not fall into the dark abyss below, and I wouldn't show this off if it weren't for one little detail. Notice how I have paused it here, and let me zoom in right into the very back. Notice anything? The texture is identical to an anti-gravity strip, but of course, Rosalina's Ice World isn't going to literally go upside down and there's some crazy anti-gravity segment. However, if you recall from GCN DK Mountain, there's something else which shares its texture with an anti-gravity strip, a zipper ramp. And so I believe that this is an indication that half pipes have been added just before the underwater section in 3DS Rosalina's Ice World, something that wasn't even in Mario Kart Tour. And this makes me extremely excited because this section just before the underwater part is really designed for half pipes, so I'm extremely happy that it appears that they're going to be included. There's walls on either side, as you can see on screen right now, and so it would feel a lot like Wii DK Summit in a way in this part. Something a bit odd though is that half pipes aren't being added in this giant area where we see King Boo. Like seriously, why? I do have to wonder. Wii DK Summit has them implemented in a very similar situation, and that even functions fine in 8 Deluxe, I'd argue. So why exactly are they not being included here? It's a bit odd of a design choice to implement them later, but not in this part. But regardless, I'm just happy half pipes are being added at all. It's pretty awesome, and I think this track was really designed with half pipes in mind, which is weird because Mario Kart 7 didn't even have half pipes. Are they planning on including half pipes during development and then ditched it or something? I genuinely don't know. But regardless, a track that felt like it always should have half pipes now has half pipes, at least in some places, which now makes me quite happy. Good job, Rosalina's Ice World. I'm glad that you're getting updated in a way that you deserve. Taking a look now at this screenshot, and oh my goodness me, again, this track just looks so nice. Look at how you can see the light reflecting a little bit on the eyes. You can see a penguin looking up into the sky, which absolutely looks gorgeous. And we have some more weird hut things. We can actually see a toad and a penguin chilling on top of one of them. I don't know why they're on top of the roof, and I also don't know how they got up there, but hey, the view's beautiful, so why not? And we can also see a penguin sliding across the ice right in front of that hut as well, which is also just such a nice thing to see. Add to all of this the absolutely gorgeous ice wall all around this area, area, and man, I'll say it again, the visuals on this track are absolutely incredible. Now diving underwater, because of course this track, just like the original and tour versions, will feature underwater driving, and we can see some penguins swimming around in the water. We can see some life underwater as well, and in addition to this, there's also some pillars which are supporting the huts that we saw above, which is pretty awesome to see. We also get to see this screenshot, which shows us inside of the ice cave that you have to travel through, and of course we can see boost panels that players can utilize to boost during this section, as well as a giant mushroom off to the side that has a little toad on it. We can also see light from the outside creeping in through holes. We can see icicles coming down from the ceiling. We can see some snow gently falling outside, and overall this environment again just looks absolutely gorgeous. And the final thing to note on this track is this wooden ramp at the very end that you can trek off of, which I quite like. Overall, 3DS Rosalina's Ice World is pretty faithful to the original version of the track as one would expect. It has changed a little bit visually, the music has been improved slightly, and on top of all of this, there have been minor additions made to the track, notably the half pipe I mentioned before. However, the track overall has the same structure, same feel, and overall it is just a slightly better version of what was already an underrated Mario Kart 7 Nitro, and I'm very happy it's been included. I did say this was pretty unexpected, and that's because me and many people did expect it as the mystery retro track of Wave 6. However, when we saw Wii Daisy Circuit, which was also an eligible contender for that slot, we ultimately concluded that it was probably going to be scrapped in favor of a different track. However, Nintendo decided to throw a curveball and decided to add both Wii Daisy Circuit and 3DS Rosalina's Ice World, which not really many people anticipated, and I certainly did not. I'm very happy that this track managed to make it in. It's always has stood out to me as an underrated Mario Kart 7 track, and I do hope that it being in the Booster Course Pass will make more people recognize it as the amazing track it is. Beautiful atmosphere, really nice gameplay, and overall, I really do hope that more people start to respect and talk about this track. It's really beautiful, I think it's very well done here, and I'm a big fan of the improvements made. Rosalina's Ice World was pretty chilly. How about we warm up a little bit as we descend into SNES Bowser Castle 3? The new soundtrack sounds absolutely killer. Oh my god. Seriously, this sounds so freaking incredible. The original soundtrack was already fitting for the track, but this is taking it to the whole next level. Oh my god, I love it. As far as the gameplay is concerned, well, in case you haven't realized it already, it's entirely unrecognizable to the original. I'm serious, just look at this screenshot. Oh my god! There's fire everywhere. Seriously, everywhere. There's lava in the background. There's a giant lava waterfall. There are lava geysers coming out of the lava. There's also massive fiery torches. Even the freaking sky is orange and the clouds are red. What? And there's even more lava. Seriously, there's freaking lava walls as well that defy all logic and reason. Seriously, there's this anti-gravity section. You have lava walls. You have fireballs jumping between them. What even is this? There's a freaking erupting volcano in the background. What was Bowser's budget when he renovated this thing? Infinite income? What is this? The jumping section that was in the original track has also been entirely overhauled and now is this giant anti-gravity section on this giant lava wall. And this looks absolutely incredible based on the gameplay that we've seen. Seriously, just look at this, man. This is sick. The anti-gravity section also will continue after the jumping sequence and will lead players onto this narrow straightaway where there is this swamp that players have to dodge. That will eventually lead players to the split path section, and something I absolutely love about this remake is that they actually kept it so that you can jump over the walls, as that was something even in the original version. However, now it's in a completely different way. You can either stick to the ground, of course, or it looks like you can actually go up onto one of the walls and actually trick over different gaps that break up the wall, making it essentially an optional jump sequence, which I believe is absolutely incredible. And just look at this thing. This thing is absolutely crazy. Add to all of this that you have giant thwomps on this track that are just as threatening as they would be in any other track, and it is absolutely perfect for a Bowser Castle track. Because of course, what kind of Bowser Castle track doesn't have thwomps? Actually, the Nitro Bowser Castle track in this game. Yeah, why doesn't it have thwomps? Well, at least this one does, so that's good. At least this track remembered. Anywho, one other detail that's worth noting before I wrap this track up is that if we look below the thwomps, we can actually see cracks in the ground where the thwomps keep slamming the ground, which makes perfect sense, because if you keep having thwomps crash into the ground, it's going to crack and break a bit, as thwomps are quite forceful. They really have some anger issues. Overall, SNES Bowser Castle 3 has been overhauled so much that it is almost entirely unrecognizable to its original version. Soundtrack sounds absolutely incredible, the visuals are some of the best we've ever seen in the entire series, and on top of that, the gameplay looks absolutely phenomenal. The track has quite literally been reborn, and I have no doubt this will be one of the most improved retro tracks we've ever seen in the entire Mario Kart series. And just to think, this track is only the semi-finale. We have come so far already, and yet we just have a little bit more to go. We are so close to the finish line, and it is finally time that we talk about the final track of not only Wave 6, but also Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as a whole. The final track of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is Wii Rainbow Road! The original Wii Rainbow Road has one of my favorite soundtracks in the entire series. And you know what? This soundtrack is even better! Sounds even more magical, sounds even more charming, and oh my goodness me, do I adore it! Yes! Somehow, even though the soundtrack sounds absolutely gorgeous, this track is even more gorgeous. I'm serious, just look at the visuals. The Rainbow Road itself looks absolutely magical. It looks so good. I don't even know how to convey it into words, but it just looks absolutely incredible. You can see Earth just below the track, which looks just absolutely incredible as well. I know I keep saying that word. I don't know how else to describe it. You have the sun, which appears to be coming overhead, coming above the horizon behind the Earth, which again just looks absolutely stunning. There are asteroids all over the place. And that's not even mentioning just how beautiful the boost panels look. Even the boost panels look super freaking cool. Look at the color gradient on the road. That's incredible, dude. I don't even know how else to describe this other than absolutely gorgeous. The track even has star bits around it, which is pretty interesting. Of course, it's a nod to Super Mario Galaxy, and I absolutely adore that. It goes perfectly with the entire theme of this track. Taking a look at the screenshot from the footage, and dear heavens, the background. Again, this track just looks so good. There's a galaxy in the background. We can also see what looks like Jupiter, which, given the proximity to Earth, might be a little bit concerning, but it's Mario Kart. Weirder things have happened. And the real reason why I wanted to show this off, though, is the fact that there are half pipes. I could have shown this off in the previous image, but honestly, I think this one does it much more justice. Look how beautiful they are! Half pipes! Of course they would be brought back, but I feel the need to mention them regardless. Also, we can quite clearly see that there are these little tiny ramps in front of these holes, which is also worth mentioning, as these actually weren't in the tour version. I'm assuming they weren't in tour because jumping over these giant holes wouldn't have really worked that great in tour, but regardless, they're back and I'm happy about that, so that's awesome. We also get a good long look at this cannon, and again, like I mentioned with GCN DK Mountain with its cannon, this is another contender for what might be the best cannon in the entire series. Look how cool it is as well here. Man, this looks awesome. Nothing else to say other than this looks absolutely stunning. One other thing that I really want to point out as well is this jump right right here. This always stood out to me in Mario Kart Wii for being really, really crazy. And I've been wondering, how on earth are they going to get that really weird jump to work in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? And well, apparently the answer is quite well. Seriously, this looks to function really, really well, and it looks absolutely gorgeous as well. Looking at the track as a whole, and boy oh boy, it's pretty obvious this track is pretty similar to the Wii original, which makes perfect sense. Just look at this ending section, for example. We can see two split paths that are very twisty and turny, and both convene at a massive jump, which then takes you onto this very final bend that then takes you towards the finish line. Along the entire way, there's also boost panels that players can utilize in order to get optional speed boosts, but of course, the faster you go, the easier it is to fall off. This risk versus reward is just like what we saw in the original version of this track. We can also see this in this giant downhill section, which of course still retains the boost panels that have you speeding down this giant hill towards this jump as well. And of course, who could ever forget the wavy road just before the half pipes and giant holes? Well, this track didn't, and it's retained from the original version. Now you may be wondering, why on earth do I keep mentioning how similar this is to the Wii original? Like seriously, what's the point? Of course it is. It's a retro track. Most retro tracks do that. Well, it's because this is extremely similar to the Wii original, but with one major twist that I have yet to mention. Yes, it is as close to the Wii original as possible gameplay-wise. Everything from Tour that was different has been modified, and it really is like Wii Rainbow Road has been ported into 8 Deluxe, but the soundtrack has been slightly improved. The visuals have been improved as well, but notably, there has been one major gameplay addition throughout the entire track that I have yet to mention, and that is the addition of anti-gravity. In case you have not realized it already, yes, the entire track, every bit of it, based on the footage that we have seen, is in fact anti-gravity. Now, this might sound super duper crazy, and that's because it is. Now, the question is, why on earth would they make that game design decision? Why make the whole thing anti-gravity? Did it all need to be anti-gravity? Not really, no. I mean, the Wii version wasn't, and people absolutely love that, so why bother changing it? And why do it to the entire track instead of just a section of it? I believe the reason why they decided to do this is because it makes the track more fun and more difficult. Anti-gravity is a blast. It's different. It stands out. It's enjoyable. People like it. But on top of that, in anti-gravity, instead of just knocking into a player, you actually get a speed boost off the player that you hit, and the player that knocks into you also gets a speed boost, which means that you both gain speed from colliding with each other. Now consider that we are talking about a remake of what is generally considered one of the hardest tracks in the entire Mario Kart series, and we are also talking about this in a game that offers 200cc as a speed class. The results, I believe, will be absolutely chaotic. As mentioned before, anti-gravity is fun. Anti-gravity stands out. It's enjoyable. You ram into an opponent, you get a speed boost. So do they. But on this track where it's so easy to fall off, getting that extra speed boost can very well spell your doom. This simple change throughout the entire track, despite being quite small at first glance, will completely change player dynamics and how players will interact with each other on this track. Sometimes you'll have to be wary of avoiding your opponents. Other times, maybe it'll be good to boost into them. Maybe you can boost them off. Sometimes it might be good to help out your opponent and yourself. Maybe it's a giant straightaway and you want to speed each other up. Risk versus reward again, and it is reinforced in anti-gravity throughout the entire track. And I absolutely love it. Overall, Wii Rainbow Road is an absolutely magical track. It was already incredible in its original form and is among my favorite tracks in the entire series. So to say that this remake had a lot to live up to would be an understatement, and yet I believe it has not only met that bar, but has actually exceeded it, being a slight improvement over the original version by the looks of it. The visuals have been enhanced, the soundtrack has been improved, and on top of that, the track functions almost identically by the looks of it, but now with the plot twist that the entire track is anti-gravity, which, while a simple change, does change player dynamics throughout the entirety of the track. All things considered, I do believe that Wii Rainbow Road will be a slight improvement over the original in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I am extremely happy that this track will be ending off the greatest Mario Kart game the series has ever seen to date. And there we have it, a complete overview of Wave 6. Everything has been analyzed, everything has been looked over, and I've given my opinions on everything this wave has to offer. All the tracks from the Acorn Cup, all the tracks from the Spiny Cup, and all of the additional content besides the tracks. Now then, I believe it's time that I go ahead and I rank all the tracks based on how excited I am to play them. AKA, it is time to rank all the tracks by hype. Number 8, Wii Daisy Circuit. Number 7, 3DS Rosalina's Ice World. Number 6, Tour Madrid Drive. Number 5, GCN DK Mountain. Number 4, Tour Rome Avanti. Number 3, Tour Piranha Plant Cove. Number 2, SNES Bowser Castle 3. And finally, at number 1, Wii Rainbow Road. Make no mistake, however, I'm even looking forward to Wii Daisy Circuit despite it ranking number 8. I'm looking forward to playing every single one of the tracks in this wave. Now, normally this is where I would wrap up the video, tell y'all to have a great day, and say that I hope to see y'all next time, but hang on a minute, there's something else to talk about. There's a certain track which did not get included in the Booster Course Pass that I want to discuss. And no, it's not Airship Fortress, although I do wish that track would have been included as well. No, instead, it's Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline. Let's shift gears and let's talk about this track real quick. So yes, Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline did not make the cut and is not being included in the Booster Course Pass. That is why I want to discuss it. Now, of course, there's a lot of tracks which haven't made it in, obviously. However, Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline is special as it's the only Tour Nitro track to not be included in the Booster Course Pass. This is especially interesting when considering the entire point of the Booster Course Pass, aside from making Nintendo extremely rich and like Scrooge McDuck, is to, of course, preserve Tour content. So it seems kind of strange to include 20 other Tour Nitro tracks and then decide, you know what, we're not going to include Pipeline actually and just put it aside. Is Pipeline that terrible of a track? Well, I have heard some people complain about it gameplay-wise, but considering Nintendo decided to save even Tour Tokyo Blur, I don't think gameplay is the reason why they ditched this track. Instead, I think it's much more likely that this track was ultimately ditched because Nintendo forced themselves into a position where they would have had to include this and Piranha Plant Cove in the same wave. Would Piranha Plant Pipeline and Piranha Plant Cove in the same wave have been an absolute train wreck? Honestly, I don't think it would have. It would have been a bit weird to have two Piranha Plant tracks in the same wave, but gameplay speaking, they're entirely different. Tour Piranha Plant Cove can be best described as an interesting blend between Thwomp Ruins and Dolphin Shoals, while Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline can be described as 3DS Piranha Plant Slide, but on steroids. Ultimately, I do think that both tracks could have coexisted in Wave 6, but it definitely would have been weird and not ideal. Instead, I believe the ideal scenario would have been one of the tracks to have been in Wave 5 and one of them to have been in Wave 6. To visualize everything, I went ahead and I made a proposal for what I believe Waves 5 and 6 should have been, and here it is. Now, of course, there are some changes like GBA Yoshi Desert and DS Airship Fortress being added, but let's not focus on those, alright? Let's instead focus on the tour tracks. I decided to put Tour Piranha Plant Cove in Wave 6 over Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline because this track is the only one to have multiple variants in Mario Kart Tour, meaning that this track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe should have route changing of some kind, which will be quite interesting and will make it stand out a lot. Other than that, all I had to do was simply move a tour track from Wave 5 to Wave 6 so that I could add Pipeline in the vacant slot. I ultimately chose Vancouver Velocity as I believe it is much more fitting for Wave 6 opposed to Squeaky Clean Sprint. All things considered, am I absolutely devastated the Tour Piranha Plant Pipeline is not in Wave 6? Not really, no. More than anything, I'm just a bit confused as to why it's the only Tour Nitro track not in the Booster Course Pass. Again, it's probably because it conflicts too much naming-wise with Piranha Plant Cove, but still, Nintendo really should have formatted the Booster Course Pass better to have accounted for this. That all being said, though, as long as it's remade in the next Mario Kart game, I literally won't care that it didn't make it into the Booster Course Pass. Keep in mind, 20 out of 21 Tour Nitros have been preserved. While it's not 100% completion, I would say 20 out of 21 is still a lot, and it still means that the Booster Course Pass has been successful in its mission at preserving Tour content. Not 100%, but close enough, I suppose you could say. Overall, Wave 6 looks absolutely phenomenal. I am absolutely thrilled with this wave, and I feel very confident in saying that it will be the best Booster Course Pass wave we have seen, which makes me extremely excited to be able to say, and I can say it quite confidently, actually. I really am looking forward to being able to play this wave. I love the content that's been added, and sure, I do think it could have been done a bit better. That's why I did do my modified proposal. And sure, certain things are still a little bit, like Pipeline not being included. Wait, what now? But at the same time, it also helps keep things interesting. And ultimately, I still absolutely love the final result, so I can't complain too much. All things considered, Wave 6 looks to be absolutely phenomenal, and I have no doubts that I will absolutely love it. Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. Congrats to anyone who manages to actually get through this entire video. I know it's crazy. And overall, hope y'all have a great day, and I hope to see y'all next time. Alright, bye!